This is a video that I'm making to explain how I think artificial general intelligence could be created in 10 years. I believe that with the computational power of computers speeding up and the accuracy of brain scans coming about, that there will be a convergence of interdisciplinary projects that will accumulate all the data so that AGI will be able to function in the real world or a virtual world. First, the main problem is that we can't simulate the brain all at once because there's too much data. So what I propose that will happen is, or this idea of mine is, that first we scan a person's brain using non-invasive techniques, and then using an ordinary computer we take simulated brain cells and put them together in a low resolution shape like the brain, and after that, because of our knowledge, we can fill in some of the circuitry and then test run it in comparison to a real person. So what would happen is a person would be in a brain scanner. They would think about doing something, and the simulated brain would try to emulate what the real brain is doing. So if we were to say that put the virtual brain in a virtual brain scanner, then what we would expect would be that the virtual brain would look exactly as the scanned brain of the person in the real world. And then there would be different tests to refine this brain. For example, we would show a person movement of people, like for example, a person walks up to a trash can, picks up a cup from the table and throws it in the trash can, and the person that's in the scanner would see this, and after that the brain would have temporal resolution of what's happening within the brain cells in the different regions, seeing what's happening, and then using evolutionary algorithms, we manipulate the virtual brain cells until they match what's happening inside the real person in the virtual machine. And the point of this is to get it as close as possible to what's happening in the real brain as what's happening in the virtual brain. And so the virtual brain would be in a virtual body in a virtual world, because that would be the safest place and the most efficient place for such things to happen, because a robot body would fall down and break easily and wouldn't be exactly that efficient in the learning process, because it has to take place in a physical place and you have to set up the equipment in case of emergencies, technical emergencies. And so virtual worlds can be really realistic, because it doesn't have to be in a particular setting, such as in real video games, but it could be as detailed as the computer running it. Furthermore, whenever computer power increases, we can add more virtual neurons or brain cells to the simulation, run the simulation again, using evolutionary algorithms, match the physiology of the virtual neurons to the real neurons, and then run it again. Also, the physics of each neuron would be what the evolutionary algorithm would be working upon. It would make a generalized blueprint of the neurons in that region from the data that we already know, plus tweaking it a little bit so that maybe this dendrite or this synapse is flexible and this one's rigid, more so than the others types of neurons. And bit by bit, I believe that this would allow us to make it more realistic. And also, chemistry could be involved in this simulation, whereas and this is all abstract. The molecules don't have to be the right shape or the right size. They only have to represent what chemicals we know about at the moment, and their effect on the neurons themselves. So, for example, an oxygen molecule could be the size, could be 50 times or like 10 times bigger than normal, but as long as it still had the same general effect, it would be plausible that chemicals could be involved in the simulation. And finally, what I have to say is that if we do have this virtual reality person, it would be almost exactly like the real person, because it would be modeled on their particular brain, because it would be fine-tuned on their neural patterns. Because, for example, some people are better at football than others, and some are better at other things. So we could say that and later on we could take the best parts from people's brain regions, and eventually come up with a super AI.